We've just come through an election, a midterm. And in that midterm, oftentimes, particularly the arguments, boil down to very specific things without ever really dealing with the overarching narratives that plague our society, or for that matter, plague us as human beings as a whole, meaning society as a whole, and maintaining the society in the face of threats that we pretend as if they don't exist, even though to some degree all of us, I believe, have this nagging suspicion that there is something out there in the darkness with sharp claws and long teeth waiting to eat us. Water still, sketchy in Flint and all throughout the United States. You have a homeless population all throughout the country, and I think homelessness is utter failure of the society itself. At that point, there should be nobody that's homeless. I would make that case. Various spots throughout the United States with certain levels of severity, particularly California, is atrocious. New York is atrocious. You have an election system that looks more like a banana republic, with Georgia and Republicans in Georgia trying to outright steal an election. And you have a bumbling media that doesn't focus on this, that doesn't say, wait a minute, if we're a representative government, shouldn't it be one man, one vote? And should we not have people in political positions monkeying around with the electoral process in order to allow themselves to stay in power? We don't even deal with this thing of climate change, where we pretend as if we believe in science, and scientists, the majority, overwhelming majority, like 80, 90%, have come out saying, well, 90% of the papers that have been, of the research that's done, has definitively said, yes, we, human beings, are heating up our habitable environment, and we are going to create a terror. What, 12 years? With 12 years? We don't deal with those things. Instead, we focus on minutia. Little things. We have little men like Sam Cedar who browbeat anybody who brings up the faults and the failures of the Democratic Party, making the argument that for the most part Democrats made in this election, not standing for anything. You may have a few bright spots. I like Dojeda. I like Ocasio-Cortez. A few bright spots. But on the whole, the leadership itself is likely to re-vote for Nancy Pelosi to be the face of the party. $100 million Nancy Pelosi, essentially a party that doesn't stand for anything, only purely relational to the Republican Party, which is horrendous since the Republican Party has jumped off of a fucking cliff. And the best that the Democratic Party can say is, we're not them. Yes. We will build one concentration camp less than those guys. This misses the problem, however, that year after year after year, that's a purely relationship. That's relational. That's not a definitive thing of what a particular party is. That's purely relational to what the other party is. And we don't have time to do this incremental nonsense when we are being told by the people who build our bombs and jets and planes, who explain our world, that you have 12 years left. Not to mention the societal breakdown, the level of poverty in this country. What, the median wage is $30,000 a year. You have healthcare costs that are going up. You have education costs that are going up. And the entirety of the country, the majority of the country, has said healthcare, 70%, yes. The majority of the country, education, yes. The majority of the country. Expansion of Social Security. I guess I'm trying to make this point that the country is in a different space than the political class. And this blue no matter who nonsense doesn't change anything. It just continues to prop up the structures that are leading us to utter destruction. Chris Hedges, Noam Chomsky, love both. Titans. from the standpoint of the left and dissidents. I love both. Now, this title is slightly clickbaity. Using the term owns is far too strong, but Chris Hedges plows into this argument that Noam Chomsky makes about just voting blue no matter who because Republicans are batshit crazy. I like this argument. The structure of the argument is similar to my own argument that I've made for the last year doing this channel. So I'm going to flag it. This is Hedges doing what Hedges does, being a dissident. In this case, dissenting from the opinion of Mr. Noam Chomsky.
Noam Chomsky, who consistently now for election after election has openly said that the only choice is to support the Democrats. And more recently, he's been saying that the GOP, the Republican Party, is the single greatest threat to global stability or peace in the world.
Overwhelmingly, the Republican Party is simply a major threat to not only to the country, but to human survival. I've said in the past that I think they're the most dangerous organization in human history.
I don't agree with Noam on that issue. I think the problem is that, and I was very involved in the Nader campaign when he was running for president. I was a speechwriter, and nobody's fought corporate power with more integrity and courage and foresight than Nader. And essentially he was locked out of the legislative process when this corporate coup d'etat, which we have undergone, essentially pushed out the liberal wing of the Democratic Party, because Ralph would write this legislation. I think he wrote 24 pieces of legislation, the Mine and Safety Act, the OSHA, the Clean Water Act. All this was written by Nader, but then passed or pushed through by liberals. And I think the problem is that we on the left didn't take a stand. Politics is a game of fear. And Ralph's argument was that 5, 10, 15 million people walk out on the Democrats. They will feel the pressure. In the same way that the Democrats under Roosevelt, with the breakdown of capitalism in the 1930s, felt the pressure from not just the Progressive Party and the old CIO, but also the Communist Party, which we have. I'm not a communist, but I mean, that Communist Party played a very important role in terms of putting pressure on the centers of power.
Understand what he's saying, because this is true. I mean, this is logically true. Why do you think they had that unity commission? You had all of those people walk out the Democratic Party. I think it was like 15 million people say, I'm done. Check, please. This is where I get off. You cheated my guy. I don't want to be a part of this establishment. For the last 20 years, we've been the politically abused spouse of the Democratic Party, with Clinton looking at you saying you have nowhere else to go. So regardless of the person who we put in, regardless of what random hack that we put in, no, they're not going to represent your interests. Yes, they're going to take a ton of corporate money. Yes, they're going to do favors for that corporate interest. But we will be incrementally less than the Republican Party. And you will accept it because you have nowhere else to go. The catch here is you must break this edifice. It's true that the Democratic Party uses identity politics and creates a distinction between us and them, meaning the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, by being multinational and inclusive in this way. But it allowed them to take economics off the table. Well, economics and identity are intertwined. You can't disassociate those things in the same way that the Democratic Party has. And part of the anger and the angst and the pissed offness, if that's a word, that's probably not a word, but I'm going to use it anyway, fuck it, is to some degree because those people throughout the population are looking for a way to deal with far more difficult economic circumstances as their wages don't go anywhere, as corporate profits go through the roof, and as the bills that they're forced to deal with continue to go up. This, what they say, escape valve or release valve of the capitalistic system. The Democratic Party believe that just by using identity, they could essentially ignore economics, take tons of cash, do favors for the people who are giving them that tons of cash, being incrementally better by simultaneously saying you have nowhere else to go. And then get people like Sam Cedar to vote shame when people don't accept that model of things. That model needs to be broken. I'm not saying there's a magical door, nor am I saying that this issue of identity isn't real. I mean, for fuck's sake, I'm African American with a Native American heritage. I fully understand this idea that Republicans, they're creatures that lurk in the bottom or in the cellars of the Republican Party, some of which have crawled to the surface. But there's a point where you must accept that your world is at stake. Literally. That if you want to really get anything done, not necessarily meander along from pillar to post, lurching slowly, if at all, while you know that the people who are in power don't represent your interests, while you know that the money that they're taking is influencing their behaviors. That model needs to be broken. And that model isn't broken by blue no matter who. The model needs to change. Chris Hedges is right. This is a great interview, by the way, with Chris Hedges. I'm not going to keep this one entirely long. Let's see. Hassam Ali. About to fall asleep. It's 6:30 a.m. here in Sydney, Australia. Wanted to get into something while I could. Thank you, Hassam. I appreciate it. Yeah, Jamarl admitted we're clickbaited. It wasn't that clickbaity. I mean, Chris Hedges is plowing to the argument that Noam Chomsky making. So yeah, calm the fuck down. Blue only if Bernie Sanders. That's funny. Yes. Bob Ramirez. So some people spin whatever fantasy allows them to stay locked into the DNC corral. Yes. Chomsky is an academic. He doesn't get out there to talk to people like Chris. Trina be fine. It's that, but it's also this thing that, from the standpoint of Chomsky, the environment is about to implode. You have a Republican Party that is batshit crazy and is loony. The stuff that they believe is astonishingly insane. Jordan was interviewing Trump supporters. Those people are terrifying. Some of them are utterly terrifying. So Chomsky is not necessarily horribly wrong. The thing is, Chris Hedges has been across the country. And even though you might consider creatures in the Republican Party, some of those creatures used to be Democrats that were radicalized with the delegitimizing of the left. Mind you, the left did it to itself. You had a situation where people are looking for some level of change, some level of assistance, some level of help. For fuck's sake. People, the first thing in the priority was Medicare for all. And you can't even get $100 million Nancy Pelosi to support it. Let's put this in context. Your world is coming to an end. Is the Democratic Party going to repudiate the things that are causing this level of climate change in the country? No, they're not. They're still taking fossil fuel money. There are people dumping money into their wallets. And if they're dumping money into their wallets, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to do favors for those people. Look at Hawaii. And by the way, this is not a rah-rah for the Republican Party. They're worse. They're just as bad, if not worse. The difference is the Democratic Party puts a multinational or multicultural face on corporate policies. It's a soft glove, even though they're still grabbing your ass. Luca Clemente breaking. AJ Goodman hates Hillary Clinton. Yes, he does. What's your thoughts on Ojeda running for president? Red in economics. I like Ojeda. Garnome, how many CIA Democrats ended up winning? Oh, God, I don't know. I know the one in Virginia won. Spangler, whatever her name is. I like Ojeda. What, the West Virginia had 25% poverty for kids. I mean, that number is astonishing when you think of it. That's not even barely making ends meet, which doesn't necessarily get registered. This is poverty level. And so I understand him being angry. He should be angry. So I like this fire that Ojeda has. If Sanders run, I'm voting for Sanders. If Sanders run, I'm voting for Sanders. So Ojeda, I can like him all I want. Sanders has been doing what Sanders has been doing for the past 40 years. He's earned it. I mean, this argument that we're having right now about Medicare for all, that being the tip of the spear, that's the number one thing that people cared about. That didn't come out of magic. There was no magical door where somebody just walked out and say, hey, here's Medicare. No, that was fucking hard work. He created the space from which people can have that discussion, and that discussion being primary, not necessarily something on the fringe. He himself moved the Overton window in that presidential run, and then after that run, continuing to push this fight forward. Yes, there were other people that were assisting with it, but let's be honest. I like Ojeda. I like Ojeda in West Virginia. Maybe not necessarily for president. Gardner, Jamal refuses to take off the Darren Sanders. The Sanders bib. Fair enough, fair enough. Jared Greathouse, Chomsky doesn't support corporate Democrats. He said Obama ran a terrorist program, but first described him as awful candidate and then first ran for office. Yes, but Chomsky also, even in the clip, made the point that vote Democrat. I've sent Chomsky a letter, by the way, asking him about this, and he said the exact same thing to me. Republican Party is dangerous. You don't have a choice but to vote Democrat. So whatever he said about Obama, whatever. At the end of the day, he still came to the conclusion, vote Democrat. I'm saying that's wrong. Hedges is saying that's wrong. I agree with Hedges. I agree with Hedges. If Sanders runs, he's got my vote. None of your business. Agreed. Yemen calling for help. Jimmy Dore did a breakdown with the guys starting the People's Party. Yeah, you're talking about Nick Brana. It was not good. However, 2 Socialist Party members are going to Congress. Yes, that's true. You're talking about Nick Brana. I need to check that out. You're like the second or third person that I've heard say something about that. Republicans are insane Bible thumpers that hate minorities. Trudy, I think you're true on part of that. Yes. There are different factions of the Republican Party, just like there are different factions of the Democratic Party. You have Bible thumpers. You have people who are just, I just want as much as I could get, fuck the rest. I want to get all that I can get, meaning I want to save every dime that I can get. So you have the corporate types. You have people who are just useful idiots who don't know no better. I mean, Ojeda kind of made this point that people are supporting the interests of people who are actually trying to fuck them over. You have those. So they're different factions. They're different factions. Bob Ramirza. Oh, God. I feel like I'm about to get hit. I have my stockings hung up the chimney with care, Luca Clemente. So come on, Sanders Claus. I want my pony and my yacht. A yacht. Not just a pony, but a yacht. Jamal, have you heard Chomsky's opinion on 9/11? Yes, I have. Joe Howard. He just believes planes in the building. I don't think he thinks there's any fudgy with it. Anything new in Florida? Ejection fraud in Florida, Jamal. So yes, Rob. So the last thing I heard on the election fraud, there were 20,000 people thrown off the rolls, or not thrown off the rolls, absentee ballots that Rick Scott essentially wasn't counting. Larger percentage was Democrat, but it wasn't a major percentage. It was like 25% Democrat, 23% Republican. It was something to that effect, with the others being non-party affiliated. We have a significant problem in this country with this idea of democracy, and trying to keep this veneer that we're the greatest republic on the planet is utter nonsense. This is some banana republic shit. I'm sparking my bowl in your honor. Thank you, Dingo A, my baby. You know, speaking of that, and I'll let this I'll let this be the end. Garden and Noam, and that's a progressive voice. This is a good movie. That's fucking hilarious. So there's the thing in DC where you send a Instagram and they will invite you to a pot party, and they'll give you the location of the party, and you go, pot in DC is legal to use, it is not legal to buy, and so you can't technically buy any pot, but what you could do is you could buy like lollipops and suckers, and they would, for the pleasure, give you pot that you can choose to take or not take for the $30 lollipop that you just bought. Apparently they have something like that here in Barcelona that my wife was sending off to try to get to. I suspect that what we probably have to do is send it in Spanish as opposed to in English, but That's the best that I got from the standpoint of trying to find something here. So thank you. Spark up in my honor. Fuck it. Smoke 2 in my honor. Calling Chomsky a hack is absurd. Chomsky is not a hack. Chomsky is not a hack. I don't know where to get that from. That's insane. Nobody in their right mind can consider Chomsky a hack. That says more about the individual that's calling him a hack than it does about the person, than Chomsky itself. That's fucking lunacy. That's fucking lunacy. Chomsky is beyond internet noise. Not a hack. Yeah, he's beyond that shit. He has an opinion. That's all. Everybody has an opinion. We all have an opinion. All right, I'll end this here. I will be back shortly. The patron appreciation is going to be in 15 minutes. I need to find a topic. But yeah, I'll end this here. Chomsky, right here. Look at Clemente. I ended on this. Chomsky is a brilliant thinker. Yes, he is, but no one is right all the time, except Progressive Voice, of course. Progressive Voice is always right. Progressive Voice knows all. The god of knowledge. I love it. All right. Manufacturing consent is super relevant. Exactly. Chomsky and Hedges. Chomsky and Hedges are both fucking fantastic. I love both. I have the last book of Chomsky I got is Who Owns the World. And I've got like 3 of Hedges books. Brilliant thinkers. So, all right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. And you can always support the content through Patreon or PayPal. Thanks all.